reflects the work of the department's Ransomware and Digital Extortion Task Force as part of a whole-of-government response to the threat of ransomware. Both the arrest of Vasinski and the charges against Polyanin and the seizure of millions of dollars in cryptocurrency show we will be relentless in our mission to investigate, to disrupt, and to prosecute ransomware attacks. Over the past 7 months, the task force, through these individuals who you see represented here today and our additional domestic and international partners, we have been using every tool at our disposal and leveraging every authority we have to hunt down and hold accountable cyber criminals wherever they may seek to hide. Exactly 5 months ago, I stood at this very podium to announce that the Department of Justice had turned the tables on ransomware attackers and seized millions of dollars in cryptocurrency paid in ransom during the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. Today, we are back to tell the American people that we've done it again. This time, the Ransomware and Digital Extortion Task Force has delivered a significant blow to the Sodanikibi and our evil ransomware gang, who attacked thousands of victims worldwide. These victims are networks of information technology providers. They are financial services firms. They are critical infrastructure entities, nonprofits, law enforcement agencies, local governments, and food and agricultural suppliers. Once again, we were able to recover ransom by following the money. The career prosecutors and the special agents of the FBI, working with partners around the globe, did some good old-fashioned detective work by chasing down digital leads, identifying infrastructure to dismantle, and seizing funds. Our partners at the State Department were able to build on our actions, and later today, they will be announcing a reward for those who assist us in our efforts to bring our evil actors to justice. Our partners at the Treasury Department are also using their sanctions authority, and Deputy Secretary Adeyemo will discuss that shortly. And our work won't stop today. The department's National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team will continue to work with our partners at the Treasury Department to deprive bad actors of their profits and to dismantle the financial exchanges that knowingly enable criminal actors who seek ransom rewards for flourish and to profit. Ransomware knows no borders, and so our efforts to combat it must be equally transnational, as they were in this case. Today's announcement, and the arrest of Vasinski in particular, was possible because of the strong partnership between U.S. law enforcement and our foreign counterparts. The arrest we announced today and the charges and the seizures are part of a coordinated law enforcement set of actions taken with partners across 4 different continents. These actions include the arrest of 2 additional our evil actors announced earlier today by Romanian authorities. Ultimately, though, the success of this case proves the crucial importance of victim companies coming forward and working with the Department of Justice and the FBI when they are first hit with an incident. The director will speak a little bit more about this and about exactly what the FBI did in this case, but I want to make clear that we are here today because in their darkest hour, Kaseya made the right choice, and they decided to work with the FBI. Almost immediately after they were hit, Kaseya provided the FBI information they needed to act, and to act fast. In doing so, we were ultimately able to identify and help many victims of this attack and also to follow the trail to Vasinski. Equally important, we worked with our partners at CISA to provide information to the public and to help prevent future attacks. What you see here today is a united front, and our message should be clear. If you target victims here, we will target you. And the Department of Justice won't give up until you are held accountable. To Americans watching today, to those who own small businesses, to those who run Fortune 500 companies, who manage hospitals and oversee school districts. This case is the reason you want to work with law enforcement. Know that if you pick up the phone and if you call the FBI, this team is waiting for you on the other end of the line. And now I'll turn the podium over to Director Wray.
Well, good afternoon. Today's announcement of the arrest of Yaroslav Wyszynski in Poland and the charges against and seizure from Yevgeny Polyanin shows what's possible when federal law enforcement and international law enforcement work together with private sector companies. It also demonstrates our resolve in pursuing criminal enterprises that use ransomware to threaten our critical infrastructure, our public health and safety, and our economic vitality. As the Attorney General noted, this ransomware strain has wreaked havoc across the globe, extorting vast sums and inflicting significant damage with attacks on, to name just a few, JBS Foods, local governments in Texas, hospitals, schools, 911 call centers, and of course, Kaseya. When Kaseya realized that some of their customers' networks were infected with ransomware, they immediately took action. They worked to make sure that both their own customers, managed service providers, and those MSP's customers downstream quickly disabled Kaseya's software on their systems. They also engaged with us early. The FBI then coordinated with a host of key partners, including CISA, and foreign law enforcement and intelligence services, so Kaseya could benefit from all of our expertise and reach as it worked to put out the fire. Kaseya's swift response allowed the FBI and our partners to quickly figure out which of its customers were hit, and for us to quickly share with Kaseya and its customers information about what the adversaries were doing, what to look for, and how the companies could best address the danger. Here, we were able to obtain a decryption key that allowed us to generate a usable capability to unlock Kaseya's customers' data. We immediately strategized with our interagency partners and reached a carefully considered decision about how to help the most companies possible, both by providing the key and by maximizing our government's impact on our adversaries who were continuing to mount new attacks. Ultimately, we were able to both unlock encrypted data and take bad actors out of operation, including by hitting Sodna-Kibi more broadly, seizing cryptocurrency, and, as you just heard, late last week, our partner Romanian authorities also arrested 2 other individuals suspected of cyber attacks using Sodna-Kibi R-Evil ransomware. As the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General mentioned, the steps we've announced today are yet another example highlighting why the public needs breach reporting legislation that provides the FBI real-time access to information about ransomware attacks and other criminal breaches. When the FBI is engaged early, we can provide victims more and better support. We can get them intelligence and technical information they need faster. And we can work quickly back from the intrusion to follow and seize the criminal's money before it can jump through wallet after wallet and exchange after exchange. Identify other victims about to be hit or in the early stages of further attacks, and make connections between what the reporting victim sees and intelligence that we're gathering from around the world, arming both the private sector and our government partners with insights that they can act on. We've deployed technically trained agents, computer scientists, intelligence analysts, and others in every one of our 56 field offices across the country so that we can warn businesses, both big and small, wherever they may be, quickly and with the information they need to defend their networks. Over the past few years, ransomware schemes have repeatedly crippled hospital systems, targeted the energy sector, threatened emergency services, and cost or endangered thousands of jobs at businesses of every kind and size. Now, most of the time, the actors themselves are trying to hide abroad, but as we've shown time and time again, we're still going to pursue them, disrupt them, and hold them accountable. the long arm of the law reaches a lot further than they think. And we've got ways of disrupting those sheltering in places like Russia, as Polyanin discovered when he woke up and found 6.1 million that he'd extorted from his victims missing. Good partners of ours, like the Treasury and State Departments, are also adept at turning the results of our investigations into action and pressure abroad. I want to thank Kaseya and other private sector partners for their invaluable help in this case and for the way they've joined our response to the ransomware threat. Also want to thank the FBI's own Dallas and Jackson field offices for leading the investigation, and I'm grateful to all our federal partners and our many foreign partners, especially Poland, Romania, Ukraine, France, and Germany. The cyber threat is daunting, but when we combine the right people, the right tools, and the right authority, our adversaries are no match for what we can accomplish together. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Deputy Secretary Wally Adeyemo.
Mr. Attorney General, thank you for having me. It's good to be here to be able to talk about the interagency efforts that we have launched to counter ransomware. Ransomware groups and criminal organizations have targeted American businesses of all sizes and have disrupted economic activity across the country. These attacks are not just a national security issue, but an economic security issue as well. That's why we at Treasury are committed to bringing to bear all of the authorities that we have to disrupt, deter, and prevent ransomware attacks from happening. Over the last several months, Treasury has taken several actions to counter cyber criminals. We have disrupted the digital financial ecosystem to provide ransomware actors with safe haven. We have provided resources to the private sector to help businesses understand and comply with anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism obligations related to ransomware payments and virtual currency. And we have encouraged improved cybersecurity measures today. Targeted disruption actions and updated ransomware advisory will further advance these efforts. In coordination with our colleagues at the Department of Justice and FBI, Treasury today is announcing sanctions against 2 ransomware affiliates who are part of a group that implemented some of the most devastating ransomware attacks against the United States. Treasury is also sanctioning a virtual currency exchange, Shatex, and its enabling companies that have provided financial facilitation for multiple ransomware variants. This means that effective immediately, all assets of these entities that are subject to U.S. jurisdiction are blocked. All transactions are prohibited for U.S. persons, and all domestic exchanges are prohibited from processing transactions with this exchange. While virtual currency exchanges mostly conduct predominantly legitimate activity, certain virtual currency exchanges provide financial services to or facilitate money laundering for ransomware actors that enable them to extract profits from these attacks. I want to call on legitimate virtual currency exchanges to continue their efforts to root out abuse and reiterate that they play a critical role in implementing appropriate AML and CFT and sanctions controls. These controls prevent sanctioned persons and other illicit actors from exploiting virtual currencies to undermine U.S. foreign policy and national security interest. Our actions today also demonstrate how the United States is working with our international counterparts to disrupt the ransomware ecosystem. International partnerships are critical to identifying and disrupting the flow of illicit proceeds from ransomware attacks, since many virtual currencies can be transferred across borders nearly instantaneously. Our actions are always more effective when we take them multilaterally and closely coordinate with our partners, similar to the way that the Justice Department has done today. To support today's Treasury coordinated with Estonia and Latvia. We would like to thank both partners for concurrent actions they took and encourage other countries to similarly protect their financial systems from abuse, take actions to hold ransomware actors accountable, and implement the international AML CFT standards for virtual currencies to mitigate criminal misuse of these assets. In addition to the sanctions designated today, our Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, has also updated its 2020 advisory on ransomware and the use of financial system to facilitate ransomware payments. The updated advisory includes information on current trends and typologies of ransomware and associated payments, as well as recent examples of ransomware attacks. I want to use this opportunity to also remind entities engaged in money transmission, which includes the transmission of virtual currency, that they are required to register as money servicing businesses with FinCEN, and they are subject to the Bank Secrecy Act obligations, including filing suspicious activity reports. Safeguards against money laundering keep our financial system safe. Our team at Treasury is proud to work with DOJ, state, and our foreign partners to disrupt financial nodes tied to ransomware payments and cyber attacks in order to protect our economy and our national security. And we look forward to continuing to do that work in the future. Thank you.
All right. Let's take some questions. Pierre, you want to kick us off?
General Garland, any evidence that the Russian government either condoned or was aware of any of this activity that you took action on today? And I have one off-topic question.
So this is an ongoing investigation. We really can't comment about that. But I will say that we expect and hope that any government in which one of these ransomware actors is residing will do everything it can to provide that person to us for prosecution.
The question, a horrific scene down in the Houston area with so many people injured and who died. There are some reports that some of the victims may have been pricked or injected with a drug of some sort. Security guard in particular, the Houston Police Chief mentioned. Is there any federal jurisdiction here? Is the FBI or any Justice Department entity looking into this case?
For this one, I'm going to refer to the director.
I think all I can really say on that right now, Pierre, is that the Houston Police and Harris County have the lead, but we are providing, some forms of technical assistance. But that's all I can really say on it right now.
All right, Ellen.
Can you tell me where this is this the first time you're indicting Russian ransomware? Is this the first time you're indicting Russian ransomware actors? Or have you done that before?
No, and indeed, last week, we secured the physical presence of a Russian cyber criminal who was hiding out in South Korea, and we worked with our partners to get him here into an American courtroom. And I think that action and today's action reflects what we are determined to do, which is to use all of our tools, both domestically and working with our partners, to hold accountable those who seek to target infrastructure here.
And I have a follow-up for Director Ray. Thank you, Director, for your explanation of a little bit of the timeline. Can you say that you immediately after the Kaseya came forward, you were able to strategize and reach a carefully considered decision to both provide the key and maximize your law enforcement equities? And I know about, I reported on some of that earlier. Can you give me a little bit better timeline as to what you decided to do when? Because I know you were also planning to do a disruption of REVOL, and which is one of the factors going into the decision to not immediately turn over the decryption key. And that also there was an assessment, I believe, provided by CISA that I was told that the victim impact wasn't as severe as initially felt. And so putting all of these factors into the mix, I think the interagency decided it was okay to withhold the key for a bit of time until you could do your disruption. And then, of course, REVOL took itself down, so you didn't do your disruptions. Give me a little more visibility.
Yeah, so I'm not going to try to confirm or tweak your chronology there. But what I would say is I think it's important for people to understand that when we find technical information like decryption keys, first off, I wish we would find them more often. It's not something that happens in every case, but it's a specific goal of the investigation, right? So that's something that our folks are tasked with looking for, It's not something we just kind of stumble across by happenstance. It's a specific aim of the investigation so that we can then turn around and push it out to companies, victims, and potential victims. When we do that, though, when there's a decision, when there's any kind of weighing of multi-factors, it's an interagency group decision, it's a team decision, it's not something the FBI does unilaterally. Then there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. So that ranges from things like the testing and validation of the tool, which is part of it. We can't just turn around and push something out. We got to make sure it actually works. We got to make sure that it's not going to make things worse and rather than better. In some cases, remember who's designing these things in the first place. So we don't want to inadvertently, put malware on somebody's computer that we're trying to help. So that takes some time. In addition, when you got a multi-front, multinational operation like this, which is more and more how we would tackle any kind of ransomware actors, there's a whole bunch of factors. But ultimately, it all boils down to trying to make sure that we can maximize the impact on the ransomware actors and maximize the benefit to the most victims and the most potential victims. And so that's kind of how it all gets worked together. A lot of times that can happen, very, very quickly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So that's really all I could say to it here today.
This is for either the Attorney General or the FBI Director. Can you talk a little bit about how you affected the arrest of Wyszynski, why he moved from Ukraine to Poland, and can you also talk about now with him in custody, the size of his network that's still out there? And I have one off-topic question.
More general, in great high level of generality, we requested, pursuant to provisional warrant, we requested his arrest by the Poles. I don't know whether the director wants to be any more detailed than that.
I think all I can really say on that is the Poles have been terrific partners, and we're very grateful for their assistance. And partnership is one of the main themes that everybody should take away from this operation. And the fact that we have such good partnerships with the Poles, with the Ukrainians, with the Romanians, et cetera, is part of what enables us to reach these types of hackers much more effectively. And there are lots of reasons why people travel, and I can't get into the specific reasons why Mr. Wyszynski traveled, but boy, are we glad he did.
The off-topic question is for the Attorney General. Can you provide a status of the referral for Mr. Bannon, where you are on that?
No. This is a criminal matter. It's an ongoing examination of the referral, and as you know, the Justice Department doesn't comment on those. We evaluate these in the normal way we do, facts and the law, and applying the principles of prosecution. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.